with the most advanced brain in the world. A genius and the world's greatest scientist, Dr. Vegapunk.
What is up, everyone? My name's Ashura and welcome back to the channel. And today we've got Vegapunk. What's it? I'll tell him. Guys, don't be afraid to hit that button down below and subscribe. Right now, did you know that 95% of you guys aren't subscribed? Come on, I know we can do better than that. Hit that button down below. And like I said, we got Vegapunk today. We're doing this in 10 minutes or less. I'm going to show you that deck list, any tips and tricks that come to mind for me, and all of my go-to plays. Let's do this. Alrighty, so naturally going to go over our leader first. So we can't attack, but for activate main once per turn for one rested Dawn, we can either put to life or put on board a 5 cost or lower Egghead character. And in this deck we have 33 Egghead cards, and so that is the majority of the deck. So every turn we should either be able to optimally play a card to board or a card to our life. Now, depending on the situation or the deck we're playing, we're definitely going to want to either flip-flop or dedicate a lot of that ability to stacking our life as the opponent tries to take it away and rip it from us, or filling the board and fighting for board advantage, as well as every now and again putting stuff to life, so that way we aren't going to die on any sort of crackback from that deck, but at the same time we're efficiently filling the board by being able to place 2 characters efficiently, or being able to essentially replenish our life, get good triggers out of that, whether it be our draw engines or our KO effects, or being able to just put a body there, have that then flip to life, or flip to board, so to speak, and if it's a Lilith, be able to search, or if it's a Shaka, have a blocker handy, have that keep us from dying, or save another character and be able to counter out a little bit more efficiently. Now naturally we are running Egghead Robin as a 3-of. That is the trigger to draw 2 cards just for free. It is an amazing trigger to be able to refill our hand, you know, put that to life. A lot of times opponents will not even attack into us because they don't want us to draw free cards. They'll start to focus our board a little bit, and that can help protect our life, where then we can also focus on filling the board with our ability next turn and just being able to then crack back into their board or at their life. And our second card here for card advantage is Jewelry Bonnie. And so before, in a previous iteration of this deck, we were running the 1 cost event searcher, and that was great because having double searchers in this deck really lets you find whatever you need and be able to effectively then play those cards, right? Well, Bonnie is just a slightly different take on that, where I think she's a bit more proactive because she is a body on board, 2, she is a very active deterrent against your opponent wanting to take their life, and she is an active draw engine. So at best, you're going to be able to activate her a few times and be able to draw 2, trash 1 on your turn, then next turn do it again, draw 2, trash 1, and that's on top of you drawing for your turn. So essentially you're getting +2 card advantage throughout the game, and your opponent's not going to like that. So a lot of times they're either going to use blockers preemptively to not let you get to their life while they can keep a healthy hand size. Well, now you're getting better board advantage because they don't have those blockers anymore. Now you can effectively swing into their stuff more or their life. And guess what? When those blockers are gone, well, if they don't want you to be having that draw engine active, they're going to suddenly be throwing away counter cards, so that way you don't get that off. Well, that works just as well for me because them having a smaller hand and a brickier hand then just makes it easier when I fill the board, and we can just charge and take all their life at once. It's pretty effective either way. Now, the small caveat is that this is a 3 cost card, so it is relatively easy to remove from a few different decks such as blue and black. Even yellow has ways to remove this. I mean, if you're playing another Vegapunk or an L, it's very possible that they'll remove this easily, but that's also why we're running 3 Egghead Robins and 3 Jewelry Bonnies, is because we can just keep throwing these up and they gotta just deal with them, because Jewelry Bonnie also has an amazing trigger of draw 2 and discard 1 from your hand, so she's never dead. You can put her into life, get that life, then have her trigger, get the 2 and draw 1. That way you at least get 1 use out of her. She's always going to be useful, so in my opinion, that's just the draw 2, discard 1. It's just a little bit better effect than the stagnant search, which can be dead in your hand sometimes, and let's face it, you're not going to whiff a search, but there are times when you just aren't going to find what you optimally need. So I think Bonnie is a little more consistent, and in combination with Egghead Robin, I think really can draw you a lot of cards. Just last night when I was playing this deck, actually, at a off-meta little tournament we had going on, I had 11 cards in hand in a few of my games, so it's very possible that you're just going to be raking in the cards with this deck. And as far as removal, guys, we did get a little bit extra. I know if you guys watched my Null video, I covered this a little bit already, but it's Egghead Nami. And so with Egghead Nami now, we also get draw and removal. So if you're at 5 cards, you can optimally cheat out Nami for 1, put her on board, her on play will happen, so you'll discard another trigger card from hand, drop down to 3, KO a 5 cost, and then be able to draw 1. So now you're back to 4. You've gone through your deck a little bit, you've got a 5k body on board, and that was all for 1 Dawn. It's pretty good, pretty good. You can even optimally just put her to life, so that way you gain a life, and when you get hit, you can activate her on play ability, pop something for 5, and again, if you're low on cards, you're digging through your deck. You can, pitch away those cards that you don't quite need for that matchup. If you're playing against a zoo type deck, then guess what? You probably don't need Rygo, which is our next piece of removal that we'll talk about here. And with Rygo / Kingdom Come, it's a pretty flexible card for this deck because we start out at 2 life. So if we're skirmishing against another deck and we aren't gaining that much life, or they're taking our life pretty consistently, once we get to the end game where they're gonna maybe start dropping 1 or 2 of their bigger boss monsters, we can essentially use Kingdom Come for free to take those out, and then use the rest of our Dawn to pretty efficiently either put bodies to board or attach Dawn, and with our existing board, go ahead and clean up their board or swing face. So this is pretty nice. And if you're playing a stall game where, yeah, maybe you do get to 5 life and you have a Kingdom Come in hand, well, it's got a fancy trigger where you can then use it for Nami to then go ahead and throw away that card and pop something else if you need to, or just establish a body. So it's a flexible card in the deck. You have to know when to use it, when not to use it, when to keep it in hand, and when to pitch it away depending on the deck you're playing. Vegapunk is a very heavy knowledge-based deck, I believe, where you have to know your matchup and basically foresee what they're going to play or what their best lines are going to be, and try and either disrupt those or play around those. We've also got typical Rocket Luffy, so we can activate his main, trash him, KO something that's a 4 cost or lower, and then go ahead and draw a card if we've got 2 or less life, which, let's face it, we're Vegapunk, we'll be hovering right around there. And last but not least, we've got both Katakuri as well as Yamato, and this is a nice segue actually into how we're going to be playing our endgame here. So in our endgame, we have both of these guys to essentially be gaining 2 life a turn. We've also got 7 cost Big Mom. This is a little bit more optional, where she allows us to either gain life or trash one of our opponent's life, and this puts our opponent in a pickle because this life swing is pretty massive for them. Yellow decks gaining life is never good, and if we've been doing a good job of aggroing them, or stalling them out with a little bit of aggro mixed in, because I always believe that is a nice little way to play, I think this card just really puts a cherry on the sundae of, great, now I've got to deal with an 8k body. This tempo swing of the life is going to be a little bit big, with Vegapunk having a lot of triggers in the deck, or just even Vegapunk being able to get that card advantage, being able to stall a little bit longer and survive. Vegapunk's kind of like that cockroach now, where it's hard to quite kill him, and you gotta know quite where he's gonna go, so that way you can predict where he's gonna go and stomp him. But that's our job, to be gaining 2 life a turn. Yamato, with our leader ability combined, we can gain life, pop something, and then just play Yamato. We can, play Yamato, gain that life if we're at 0, and then pop, boom, we get another life with our leader ability. So very flexible on both of those. Naturally, 8 cost Katakuri can even get rid of our opponent's stuff up to 8 cost, so that's super flexible as well. Don't need to be gaining 2 life a turn if we don't need to. We can gain 1 life with our leader ability, and then use Katakuri to take care of something else. As far as our 2k suite, we've got 3 Flampeys, 3 Frankies, and 4 Edisons. So Edison is a pretty good card. He lets us be able to cycle our hand, dig through our deck. If we don't quite have a good hand, we can always plop him down. He will give us a body on boards to play with, and also be able to fix our hand a little bit. I've definitely used him before to throw away Kingdom Comes if I don't need those, or honestly an early Katakuri if I don't think I'm going to effectively use it and instead a Yamato is the better option. Or vice versa, I'll throw away Yamato if I don't think I'm going to quite use it and a Katakuri suits my needs better. Frankie, well, Frankie's an Egghead card. I know we all know why Frankie's great. He's a 2K. That trigger is amazing. Draw one card. If you've got one or less life, go ahead and put him into play. So many times, one of my optimal plays is on the first turn, I'm going to drop a Rocket Luffy. Gonna cheat that out. Next turn, I will also cheat out another Rocket Luffy, swing 8k with that first Rocket Luffy, be aggro a little bit. On my next turn, or, on my opponent's turn, they're then going to probably decide, oh, I'll try and get rid of maybe the Egghead Luffy or attack into my life because maybe I've left myself vulnerable. I am not putting stuff to life and they think, okay, this is a nice opening, right? Well, they'll swing in, I'll take that first life, put it to hand, and now suddenly on my next turn I can put a Frankie there, which is the optimal placement, having that Frankie just in that second life, be able to then, when you get hit again, put him to board and draw a card, and you are not out of cards in your hand due to that trigger. You didn't have another body on board. If they attacked into your life, well, now you still have your Egghead Luffy. Or if they attack into your Egghead Luffy, well, guess what? You can just counter out, keep waiting for that optimal opportunity, keep building that board, skirmishing with your opponent. Board is king with Vegapunk. You do not want to lose your board against your opponent. Likewise, stalling is a great way to just make sure that you're going to be able to get to your end game where you can start getting that 2 life a turn and really removing your opponent's board. Last but not least, guys, we have the 1-cost event. I can't stress enough how good this event is. This event is going to save you so much. If you set up your trash where you've got, maybe one Egghead Luffy, one Nami, a Lilith, an Edison, a Shaka, or any combination of those, your opponent's going to be trembling when you put this into your life. Essentially, you gave yourself a free life and a pick of whenever they hit you, pick anything from your trash that you want, throw it on the board, and get that effect off. And now suddenly they're having to deal with multiple things going on here, especially if, let's say, they don't decide to attack into it. They're wanting to maybe grind you out a little more, and they're like, that's fine, I can stay there. Put a second one on top, watch them squirm a little bit. My favorite is to be able to put 2 or 3 in a row on top. That way when they decide to start fighting through it, they really got to think about how they're going to do things. I mean, playing those Namis or Rocket Luffys can really destroy their board, or likewise putting up Shakas is a great way to just gain attackers for yourself and blockers because he is great at both. You also might be asking, do you want to go first or second with this list? Well, honestly, I believe that both work quite well. I think you should look at the list yourself and think, how do I want to play this? I personally like to go first a lot, but there are times where going second allows you to have that extra dawn and that extra draw. That is quite effective where you can pivot and do different things. I just happen to like the odd curve a little bit more where I can start attacking and be aggro first. I personally like that best because it lets me put my opponent on the back foot and I can control the pace a little bit better and decide when I'm going to go back to a stall in defensive mode and then jump out and be aggro and then pop back to be stall and defensive. So it's that dance that I like to play by going first and being odd as a yellow player. But if you guys want to go even, that's definitely not wrong. There are definitely good times to be doing that, and whenever I've had to go on the even route, it's never felt off. It honestly feels a bit the same, but it can be better, it can be a little bit worse depending on how you like to play. So definitely experiment a bit. Vegapunk is a deck all about experimenting. I mean, that's the name of the game. That's Vegapunk right there. Now, I think I did go a little bit over my 10 minutes, but sorry guys, I do like Vegapunk a lot. I like him just as much as I now, so I plead with you guys, play him, give him a shot, give him a little bit of time. I know he's a little different to play and he can't attack, but I promise you he's worth it. He gives any deck a run for its money, and people get scared when you sit down with him. He's a real skill check deck, so if you guys want to play something that's a little bit spicier, play Vegapunk and let me know how it goes. Bring them to your locals and scare your locals. Do it. Alright, you guys have a good one. Peace.